Hello, welcome. Sorry about the little interference before.
No, that's all right. There's a big
So,
snowstorm going by. I'm sure that interfered a little bit.
oh yeah, for sure. No, I noticed that on my drive home from work today. It was pretty. It seems out of nowhere, but it's Wisconsin after all, so it is what it
For
is.
sure, yeah.
Did you guys
Typical.
do? Did you do practice in the gym today or something like that? Or
No, we actually went and worked with the middle schoolers today, so we just kind of had a chill practice.
fun? That's awesome. Do you guys do that on a regular basis?
I think we do it about once every track season. It's not regular, but we make sure we do it annually.
Oh, that's really cool. Nice. Awesome. So we got a lot of people on right now interested in hearing some stuff from you today, another interview. Sure, it's not the first interview for you, and I'm sure it won't be the last. So just bear with me here, but I'm looking
All right.
forward to it. So a little bit of background about myself. I don't know how much you seen our channel a little bit or our account before?
Oh yeah, for sure. I've seen some of the posts you guys have put up there. I've watched some of the live videos, so I'm pretty familiar with it.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Yeah, we just did an interview with Alex Esperance and we did Kenny Bednarik before that. So it's awesome to have you on in that session. So for me, I used to be a runner at Arrowhead about 10, oh my gosh, a while ago now. So we were state champs in 2009 and then 2010 was my senior year. And after that, like I love track so much, I had to come back and coach. And so I coached at Arrowhead
Okay, yeah.
last year. Yeah, I coached at Arrowhead last year, and I can't get away from the sport, and so I'm unable to coach this year. But now this is PB track. This is my focus now. So that's a little bit about
Yeah, that's
me.
great.
Um, so I want people to get a little bit of background now on you. So in doing research for the interview, a background on you is really difficult because you're very accomplished. You've done a lot of different things already, but from what I was able to gather, multiple time state champion. You're a 3-time state record holder, if I'm correct about that. And you've been competing on
Yes.
the national and international stage outside of your high school competitions. So, I mean, for someone at your age, that's a really, really awesome resume to have. So we'll get into that a little bit, but is that a fair introduction for you? I'm still new to these.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. So, and just getting started here, I'm just going to ask some really simple questions about the season, goals, stuff like that, and then we'll end with some fun questions. So you have that to look forward
Okay.
to at the end, but interview will be as painless as possible. So with this season so far, I saw that on athletic.net, and now athletic.net's not always perfect, but I saw that I can't find times for you this indoor season. Have you been taking a break, or am I just looking in the wrong place?
No, yeah, you're correct. Early season, I ran at the Ohio Spire Institute Invitational, and I ran a 400. And then I continued my
I did see
training, and
that.
then unfortunately, a few injuries have come up. And
Mhm.
I'm just taking them day by day, and I know I'm going to be back as soon as possible. And, I'm just trying to be safe. These little meets here and there in the indoor, these aren't really the meets that I'm wanting to peak at. So
Mhm.
if I have to sacrifice a few meets, it's going to be worth it in the end. So you're right. There hasn't been a lot of times for me on athletic.net, but they'll be coming. I'll let you know that.
Cool. Yeah, well, no, and that's totally okay. Obviously, like your head's in the right spot. You're very mature in the sense that, like, okay, early in the season's not when they need me. It matters more at the end. So it's a good mentality to have.
Right.
What sort of how much are you able to say about your injuries? What sort of things are you dealing with?
Just some typical muscle injuries. They're just kind of minute and kind of lingering a little bit. But I've been working with my trainer. I've been working with different specialists, and they're really helping me out. And I can definitely see an upside coming. So I'm pretty confident I'll be coming back soon.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear because I know there's a lot of people waiting to see what you're going to be able to do. No pressure. But I'm sure there's a lot of people excited to see you get to outdoor and get to running again. Um,
For sure.
so, okay. Okay. Well, glad that it's nothing like too serious though, because that would be really sad for us in the track world that follow that sort of thing. So for outdoor season, when regardless of whether or when you come back in the outdoor season, what sort of goals do you have for attacking the finish of this season to cap off your senior year of high school? How are you trying to make that end go the way that you want it to? What sort of goals do you have?
First and foremost, I just want to kind of end a great career at Wausau West with my teammates, and they've been so supportive like throughout all of my 4 years, and I just want to cap that off on a great way. And on the track, I definitely want to continue to be better every single time I step on that thing, in the 400, 300-meter hurdles, whatever it be, whatever my coach thinks I can excel in the most, and ultimately end up on the podium again.
Nice. What's your coach's name again? In doing research,
Coach
I read
Mawson,
it, but I
John
forgot.
Mawson.
Okay, that's
John
right, that's
Mawson.
right. How influential has he been to your success that you've had in his program? Has he been there all 4 years that you've been there?
Oh yeah, he's been there since I wasn't even in high school. I'd always train at the Wausau West track, even though I wasn't attending school there yet. And he'd always be helping me with things and getting familiar with me and with the sport and what I can do. And he's just really been a key element throughout my 4 years at Wausau West.
Awesome. Great to hear that you have a close relationship with the coach. That certainly always helps. I've heard stories about people who are very talented athletes but don't necessarily get along with the coach very well. So that relationship is super huge to have. Glad to hear it.
Oh, absolutely.
And then your team, as far as your teammates. So when I was looking into information on the state records that you have, which again, 3, and these aren't just like school records; these are state records. Which is just unfathomable to me. I love it. But for the 4x4 that you girls have, so I have on the list here, Anna, and forgive me if I mispronounce anyone's name. It's Anna Pressa, Caitlin Deaton, Alyssa Fawcett, and Brooke Jaworski. So that was, let's see, that was in 2016. So are you the only returner from that? So you're the only returner then from that group?
Yep,
or is
I'm
there
the
people who?
returner.
Okay.
No,
So
yeah, they're all gone. Yeah.
they're all gone. So with that being said, what do you guys think your goals are? What you're trying to shoot for in terms of a 4x4? Is it you guys trying to put together relays like that this year, or are you trying to focus more on individual events? And obviously, either answer is perfectly okay.
Yeah, it's kind of early to tell what kind of horses we got on the team. Going back to that team my freshman year, that was kind of a hodgepodge of people because Anna Presa, she had just moved from Texas to Wausau, and she ended up moving away the next year. Alyssa Fawcett, she had never run a 400 ever, and then she started picking up towards the end of the season. Yeah, it was crazy. And then Caitlin Deaton, she had transferred from Newman Catholic right across the road to Wausau West. That was her junior year, which she could only compete JV. And then her senior year, she can compete varsity. And I remember Coach Mawson's putting us together for regional sectionals, and then that was our team that ended up breaking the state record. So it's kind of a cool story because we didn't really know that it was going to come together like that. So every year, I kind of think the same way. Like, you never know who's going to come around when it comes to the state meet. But I'm hoping that we can be super competitive this year and make some noise.
That's awesome. I love that storyline too. Like, just from a story perspective, like a hodgepodge of people where normally when you think of state records, you think of like, all right, it was 4 seniors. They've been training like all their high school careers for that sort of thing. That's really cool to hear. I love that. So
yeah,
you said, was it Anna that was from Texas?
Yes, she's from Texas.
Okay. So any connection there? Where did she end up going to school? She didn't go down to Texas, did she? Where you're off to in a little bit?
Oh no, she didn't go to University of Texas at Austin. She went to a smaller, I believe it was a parochial school.
Okay.
I think she ran for a couple years, but I don't think she's running anymore. But yeah, so she's down there, and when she found out that I signed, she's like, "Oh my gosh, I'll see you. I'll come to your meets and stuff." So it's gonna be really cool to reconnect with her.
That's awesome. I love that. So in transitioning then, so Texas, obviously where you're going to school, everybody knows that at this point. And I watched the track diaries with Journey Woodward, the video that she did with you. Yeah. No, that's awesome. I loved it. I thought it was really cool. You were talking about your criteria list that you had for picking a school. And you said that, you had options, obviously, Stanford being one of the other top choices. And you unfortunately having to say no to another visit at Madison, and making tough choices like that. What were some of the criteria that you had on your 40-point checklist or whatever when you were visiting these schools? What were some of the things you were trying to take into account?
First and foremost, team chemistry. I'm a very team-oriented individual, and I believe that having a strong family-like environment can just make a team even better. So I was really, really looking out for that. In addition, I was looking for a coach who would really comply with who I am as an individual, and just really match up and have a good connection. And obviously location played a big factor. I was looking at a lot of schools in the South where it's warm and you can run outside year round.
That's huge.
But yeah, those are some of the biggest ones that I really looked at.
Cool. Because I asked people ahead of the stream today what sort of questions they would have for you. And I would say the overwhelming majority of them were people asking why Texas. And some of the questions were a little more long-winded, like people just genuinely curious about the recruiting process, because the reality of things is that not every high school athlete gets recruited, and then the ones that do, right. Say there's someone who's not necessarily on your level of competition where everyone knows who you are. There's people who are recruitable for sure, but they don't have that popularity, I guess. So there's a lot of people curious about that process. Can you tell me at all, or tell us listening, what it was like for you? Was there active recruiting then being done by Texas to reach out to you? What sort of process was that like? What sort of conversations were being held? Things like that, because I think a lot of people are curious just to see what that experience is like.
Yeah, absolutely. Going into the recruiting process for me, it was kind of going into the dark abyss of I didn't know,
Sure.
So it was kind of scary. Just being bombarded from coaches and having to talk on the phone with them and having home visits. So I started to get used to it and started to find out the hang of things. But it would have been great to have someone tell me this is what you can expect. So if I could tell or explain to someone who's about to enter that stage, I'd say just be true to yourself. If you're really not interested in school, tell them so they don't have to waste their time and they could spend that time on another athlete that's just as qualified as you are. But for me, it really ramped up my junior year. Obviously, Madison was always in the mix ever since my freshman year. I believe it was hard kind of finding a path because there were so many at first. I didn't even know how to organize them. And that's when I began to make that 40-point list, like you mentioned, of here's what I want to have, and I could kind of start narrowing things down that way. And then when it came to making the U.S. team, it really, really ramped up, and it was kind of stressful at times because I thought I had a handle on things, but then I didn't anymore, and it was kind of coming towards the point where I wanted to sign. I wanted to figure things out. But as for Texas, Coach Flo, he's the head coach over at Texas now, and he was previously at Kentucky, and he was recruiting me early my junior year to go to Kentucky. And then when he transferred to Texas, I didn't really have much contact with him. I wasn't really sure like where our relationship was at, but then I remember I had just left the track one day for practice, and I got a text from him. He's like, "Am I still in?" And I'm like, "Well, sure, yeah, you're still in." So then we kind of rekindled our relationship, and I was always in contact with them, and just ended up that way where I was going. So yeah.
Awesome. That's really cool. I personally didn't really have too much experience getting recruited. So for track, I had I believe it was like Purdue and Milwaukee, and I tried walking on at Madison, but like nothing really to that level. I mean, how many schools would you say at any given time were trying to talk to you at once?
I'd say at least 15. I'd get like a
That's a
couple
lot.
like every day. Yeah, it was really a lot. I'd get text messages and phone calls, and just from everywhere. Like even like here in Wisconsin, from D3, D2 schools that were trying to recruit me. So it wasn't just D1. It was a lot. So
Yeah. Did you have to pass that off to anybody? Like your mom and dad? I'm sure they tried to help, or your family helped, or your coach maybe tried to help. Did you have to pass that off a little bit, or did you just have to say, look, I know it's a lot, but I just have to dive in and do it all myself?
My parents and coaches definitely helped me. In the beginning, I didn't want to turn anything away because I wasn't sure, that could be my future school. I don't want to just go in blind and just, turn them down. So at the beginning, it was kind of messy, but then I told my coach, hey, I've kind of got, picked 5 so far. And if anyone else calls, just please politely tell them, Brooke has 5 schools and she's not looking for any more. So they were definitely a big help. Yeah.
Okay. Man, I can only imagine how stressful that is, and it's something you don't really think about when freshman year you show up to track practice, and you're just there to have fun, compete, and see what happens. You don't really think of some of that stuff. But that's really cool. Thank you for sharing. Do you have, it's tough because like I get people asking me questions to ask you guys now. I've had a couple of these. I've only done a few interviews with athletes this year, but I'm even for that small amount of interviews, a high percentage of questions I get are people asking like, what sort of advice would you give young runners? And I find that really interesting because like, the time window, it's really like, it's only 4 years. That's not a whole lot of time where like, you're obviously very talented and you've learned a lot, but it's not that freshmen are so far off, but yet again, like younger runners, they really want to know, like they're eager to learn. They want to put themselves in your shoes. So I kind of begrudgingly asked the question because I'm sure you get asked it a lot, but what sort of advice do you have to young runners like freshmen or sophomores, people who are just coming out to the sport or people who are coming to the sport for the first time from a different one? What sort of advice do you have for them?
Obviously we all know that track is a pretty grueling sport.
Yeah.
And I just say, be true to yourself. Be open to new things because you never know, what you could be good at, what you're going to like hurdles, that was never on my radar. And then I started doing them last year. So like, even though like you may have an idea of where you're at, just make sure that you're always open to different things and don't limit yourself because sometimes you can limit yourself by making a blockade like, no, I'm not a thrower, I'm a sprinter. And, so that's like one of the big things I'd say. It's kind of great you mentioned that actually, because as a senior, looking back and reflecting on my 4-year career at Wausau West and in the Wausau area, I really would like to give back to the community that's helped me so much. And I decided to make some type of, it's like a nonprofit like organization or kind of club thing. It's called Lane 4. I decided I wanted to work with the young generation of track and field athletes and track and field hopefuls, just to help the next one in line because I can't even like name how many people have helped me, like coaches, teachers, like people walking around the street, you know, it just like I want to give back to what's helped me and like have brought so many opportunities to me.
That's awesome. So you said, is this something you started or this is something you're joining?
It's something that I've started.
You
It's in the
started?
very
Oh my
low
God.
stages, but I'm hoping after I graduate, I can really, yes, yeah, I'm hoping I can really ramp up production and get something started this summer, and hopefully I can work on it each time I come back home, and maybe work on it and with the community down in Texas. But yeah, I'm just really hoping it all works out.
Yeah, that's really great. I love that. You know, someone who's actually in high school right now taking the initiative to start something like that. You certainly can use PB track and field as an avenue to talk about that. We'll be happy to, you know, if you have a website or something like that, when that comes up or gets put up, whenever you get to that point, just let me know, excuse me, let me know, and we'll be happy to push that out, because I think that's really awesome that you want to do that and that you already know you want to do that. Like there's people who it takes them years after leaving the sport until they go, oh, geez, like I really missed that, you know? So anytime, just let me know, keep me updated with that. That sounds really cool. Do you think you would ever go, is it
Yeah, like
coaching?
as of
Is it going to
now,
be
like,
part of that?
oh yeah, I think like track is never gonna leave my life, whether I go on to post collegiate things or not. I definitely want to stay within the track world when I leave it eventually, when I'm not an athlete competing anymore. And I think if I start something now, it can kind of build, and it'll be waiting for me when I finally leave the sport. So yeah.
That's smart. It's a really good way to think of it, because another thing I want to do with PB track and field is use it as a way to talk to athletes that are obviously now younger than myself, now that I've been removed from high school for like 10, 12 years or something like that. And talked in a way that also provides advice in addition to like the entertainment of interviews and stuff like that. Like I want to be able to give back in that way too. So that's awesome that you want to do that. I'm really impressed by that. And so with your mentality, I think it's awesome that you're pacing yourself with it, because a lot of people, they get excited about something, they want to start it up, but they don't have the legs, pun intended, to keep it going in the long term. Horrible dad
Right.
jokes, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's awesome. So keep me updated with that for sure.
Yeah, as of now, I just have like an account made on Instagram, but I think my sister's following it right now. There's no
Okay.
post or anything, but yeah, I think I'll start definitely posting more and getting things organized this summer. So yeah, stay updated with that, I guess.
Cool, for sure. You just send it to me whenever you're ready.
Okay.
So let's see what other. Okay, see if there's any other questions that came in while we've been talking. Future plan. So I'll just give a shout out to everyone that has submitted questions, because that engagement's really cool. So we got Jacoby 60. I know he's an Arrowhead athlete. He said future plans. So obviously you're running at Texas, but do you have any other future plans besides that are on your radar right now?
Future plans. Well, it's always been on my mind to hopefully make it to the Olympics one day, whether that be in the 400, 400-meter hurdles, you know, just whatever. I just want to be an Olympian one day. And obviously I have my whole collegiate year, whole collegiate years to go through. And hopefully, well, I know Coach Flo will prepare me well if that lies in my future. So that's always been a plan of mine.
Gosh, I truly hope that you get there. That's such a cool, amazing goal. And I don't think any of us doubt that is well within your ability to get there. So let's see more questions here. Oh yeah, I'm not too worried here. Next question. So what other? Oh, so run like Tariq. Tariq, I've been talking to him a little bit. He asked, what other offers did you have? So we know Stanford and we know Texas. What other offers were on the table for you at the time?
Yeah, so in addition to Stanford and Texas, I was also talking to Florida.
Okay.
I was also talking to Minnesota. And then I had, just various offers from like different schools, but ended up turning them down to focus on those four. So
Sure. Was there any experience, and you don't have to call any program out in particular, but was there any interactions that left a sour taste in your mouth that you just felt like weren't very genuine in their approach to recruit you?
Oh, for sure. Like through my recruiting process, I saw the entire spectrum of recruiting. Some were good, some were bad, some were okay. But yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely saw it all, and you can really learn a lot about a coach just by talking to them on the phone, and
Hmm.
you don't even have to meet them, and you can kind of tell like how what they value, how they treat their athletes, and I think that really put in perspective with for me, not everyone is who they seem, and I think that really helps throughout my recruiting
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. I think when you're in high school, especially, and you realize that someone is interested in you, a school is interested in you, it's hard to see from through the lens that that person is also looking at you on some level like it's a business, right? Like it's their job to go out and recruit runners. And, on some level, they might get lost in that part of it and they might forget, like, this is a real person I'm dealing with. They have feelings, they have emotions, like they have concerns, and I have to respect that. So I'm sure I'm almost glad that you were able to have a variety of different schools approach you so that you could kind of see that spectrum. I imagine it would be tough for somebody if only had like two or three schools that were like pressing for them or something like that, but they were not on the good side of the spectrum. I don't know. That process is interesting to me too.
Yeah. Right, because you gotta
Um,
take into account that they only show you what they want you to see. So
right,
it's kind of hard to
exactly. They
take.
show you what
Yeah.
they want you to see. Yep. So we got another question here. This is Jay Ganzer or Ganzer. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your last name. If you could play or participate in any other sport besides track, what would it be and why? She took one of my fun questions for later. Dang it. But yeah.
Okay. Well, obviously, not obviously, but I used to play soccer and basketball. I played basketball my freshman year, but then gave it up to train over the winter for track. So even though I've played basketball before, that's one sport I would definitely go back to without a doubt because it's just so fun. I just have a real passion for it. But sometimes you just gotta make sacrifices. But I mean, yeah, that'd be it.
Okay. Oops. Lots of running involved in that. So it
Yeah.
seems very fitting. And then Jay Gonzer asked another question, which I'm sure other people are asking as well. A lot of people ask this to Kenny Bednarik when I interviewed him. So when the time comes, have you talked with any coaches or your college coach, for example, about the moment that you would consider turning pro? It's different for everybody. It's a unique situation for everybody. Is that something you've talked about or thought about or have a plan for if it came to it?
With my conversations with Coach Flo, obviously a lot of his athletes have gone pro and they're very successful in what they do. And I don't doubt that he could get me to a point where that could be a possibility for me. And he said that if he believes I'm ready and if I believe I'm ready and we're on the same page about things and, the stars align that I can do that, he's going to help me and I would full-heartedly do that because, that's one of my dreams. So.
Well, that's awesome. That's really cool to hear. Glad that you have a good support system, especially with something like that where I could see coaches that want to, hold on as long as they can, but the good coaches will be there to empower the person and who they are and where they're at the time. That's really cool. So this Jay Gonzer asked another question, but she keeps stealing my fun questions for later. So I'm I'm not gonna ask the one. I'll selfishly take it. So yeah, we had more questions from people, but a lot of them were again about Texas. People were really curious about that. So all right, we can move into the fun questions, and then we'll have time to just like sort of shoot the breeze if there's anything you wanted to get out there and say to people regarding the season this year or whatever. So fun questions. Okay. So this one's personal about Wausau West. Besides track and field, what's your favorite part about Wausau West, whether it's the high school or the community that you're from?
Favorite thing about Wausau West. I think that Wausau West has like the best teachers. Like obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of great teachers out there, but just like I don't think there's one teacher that I'm like not cool with. Like, you know, you just gotta. I mean, I think people are very lucky to have a few teachers in their life, in their schooling, academic career that they're really tight with. And at Wausau West, just like there's like a really nice culture, and I believe that a lot of the teachers actually really care about the students and the academics and doing well. So yeah, I'd safe to say that I have a lot of friends that are teachers, and I'm really thankful for that because they also support me in my track career and definitely in my academic career.
That's awesome. I love that. So Tariq just asked a question in the chat. He said 51 in the 400 by state? Question mark.
I mean, I hope so. Yeah. Like looking back at like my trend, I guess. I usually like knock off at least like a second every year, and obviously think it's harder as you kind of reach your limit. And I never limit myself to be like, oh, 51, 50. Like, no, I can't do that. Like I said before, I'm always open to anything because you never know what's going to happen. And I just set my bar as high as I can, and I just try to reach for it every single time. So I'm not saying no, I'm not going to run 51. But I hope that my injury heals quick and I'm able to get back training and grinding, and hopefully I'll be able to do that. You never know.
Yeah. Well, I don't doubt it's within your realm of possibilities. Again, like I've said before. Now, who teaches you this mentality? Like I'm just hitting the jackpot with people I'm interviewing, but Kenny Bednarik, incredibly humble guy. Alex Lesperance, incredibly humble guy. You seem incredibly humble and just focused and have a really good mentality. Like, is it your mom teaching you this? Is it your dad? Like the way that the way you mentally approach your races seems so much more mature. It seems like it's on a higher level than what I know a lot of athletes have, or the way that they approach the race. They think it's all physical, but clearly you have a huge mental component going into these. Who taught you that?
Well, I have to give a lot of credit to my dad because he is my coach outside of school. He's competed professionally for football in Italy. He has played collegiate sports. And, you know, my mom, she has had a great life and she's learned so much. And I think those two in combination, along with my coaches from high school, I've collected a lot of different pointers and established my own type of mentality. And I think the accumulation of all of that has allowed me to be who I am and how I go through things and how I execute my race. So I definitely give a lot of credit to them, but it's also a lot of self-reflection and learning who you are and what your confidence level is and how you can expand on that.
Awesome. Well, keep that up. Don't ever lose that. My coach, so my Wisconsin, that's Coach Chris Harriet from Arrowhead. He's incredible to work with. He asked, did your dad go to a great high school? Now, I don't know if that's a leading question, like making it seem like you went to Arrowhead or something. Where did your dad go to high school?
He did go to Arrowhead.
Oh, he went to Arrowhead. Oh, no. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Did you ever? Oh, my God.
Track, played football, played basketball. Yeah, he's an Arrowhead guy. So whenever we go to the My Room Invitational, he's always saying hi to his friends and the coach. And it's like, oh, this track was so much worse when I was here. And, you know, he's actually sitting in the room with me. He's listening.
Oh, yeah? I love that. Well, I'm definitely going to be at the My Room this year. If I run into him, I'll definitely have to just say hello. And yes, it is a really great school. Thank you, Coach, for mentioning. So some other fun questions. So what are some of your hobbies outside of track, outside of sports? What do you like to do for fun?
I'm definitely into the arts. Not like theater, but every year Wausau holds the Chalk Fest in the 400 block. And when I'm not like at a track meet, I try to go to that. Whether it be chalk, painting. I'm just really inspired to, embrace my artistic side of me, I guess. And I've always been like that. I've always been drawn to the arts and things like that. So yeah, I really like
Pun
that.
intended? You've been drawn to it,
No.
you would say? Pun intended? Oh my God.
Oh, no.
I love that. So what would you find, or the question, sorry, I wrote the question wrong. What would someone find you doing with your friends on a typical Saturday, like outside of track season? Granted, I'm sure outside of your track season, you're still probably training for track and a whole lot of stuff. You're probably really busy, but what's a typical day for you if you're hanging out with your friends?
Depending on how much time we have, and my friends are also all athletes. They're all super busy, so it's very rare when we all kind of get together and do stuff. But when we have the time, we all love going up to my best friend Paige's cabin. Shout out Paige Brandenburg. We go boating and fishing, and we just really have a good time. We're all really connected to nature, and we really enjoy ourselves up there. So
Cool. Right on. Do you have any pre-meet or pre-race ritual?
Well, like most athletes, I'm sure we're all superstitious. I definitely always wear the same thing. I try to eat the same thing. I guess I don't know, all throughout middle school when track started really ramping up for me, I got extra superstitious. I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is just happening because it's just happening or if this is for real. But I'd always eat Starburst, pink Starburst to be specific. Snickers, you gotta have the glucose going into a race, especially the 400. Gotta have some extra energy.
Right.
But yeah, those are and definitely the one right now that has helped me through my high school career is Swedish fish. That
I
is
love
the bomb for me. I love Swedish fish so much, and I definitely always have a huge bag of them in my track bag. Yeah.
Nice.
So I think that's definitely one of
How does Swedish fish? How does that not make you want to throw up at the end of a 400? Because for me, anything sugary or whatever, just by the end of the 4, it would be coming up.
Oh, I definitely have it down to the minute of when I need to eat it, so that doesn't happen. Yeah. So I think probably about half an hour to 40 minutes before my race, I'll down a few, and that'll kind of pull me through my warm up, and hopefully I'll have a little bit of jitters, that glucose flowing through your blood before you go into the blocks. But yeah, I kind of know when to take it so I don't throw up, because that'd be bad.
That's really good advice for anyone watching right now who's a younger or will be watching in the replay. Anyone who's a younger runner, consistency with your diet, pre-race, pre-meet, super important. Obviously, you can't eat too much. You're going to puke, but your body gets used to foods when you eat them over and over and over again. So that's really good advice. I'm glad that you said that. Have you ever heard of, I think, pardon my language, but it was called ram's piss. We did in high school. It was a combination of apple juice and water. So it was 1/4 apple juice, 3/4 water. So it's basically homemade watered down Gatorade or something like that. Yeah. I remember a lot of the sprinters had it. And then at outdoor conference, I had it and just threw up everywhere. After winning the 400, just threw up everywhere. And was okay, I'm never doing that again. So obviously you got to know your body and you know to the minute when you can take that stuff. Okay. Next question. So you already said, Swedish fish is your favorite food. So you got that one. Favorite sport other than track. You stole my question. Do you post any of your chalk art? Does that go online anywhere?
Sometimes I'll put it on my Snapchat story or something, because I do it at home as well. I don't just wait for that one day in the year where I can display it for the community. But
right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not afraid to show it, but I don't know. I just kind of keep it to myself. But yeah, I'll put on my Snapchat stories sometimes. I never really like my Instagram's mainly for like just like highlights. Oh, here's a dance. Here's a post about my favorite sport ever, track. You know, I'm not like a high activity social media person, and I don't really like seek out to like post a ton. But yeah, like here and there I'll post some stuff. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're not necessarily on social media all the time. There's so many things in life that are so much better than social media. So I'm glad that, again, it's another example of a mature mentality that you have. You don't necessarily need to be on there all the time, and it doesn't need to be attention-seeking stuff. You know, I may have to be on it if I want to make like PB track and field a thing, but you know, like you said, you don't need to necessarily be doing it all the time. But you know, people, when you're following somebody that you know, you look up to or admire, sometimes those things are a little bit fun. So if you do ever post some of that stuff, I'm sure people would appreciate. But obviously, like, you know, only put out there in the world what you want people to see on social media.
Right.
Don't be over involved in it. So I work in marketing for my full-time job right now, and if I could, I would delete social media, but it's a part of my life right now.
Right. I think it can be like a big distraction.
It absolutely can be, and like I've seen athletes that they're posting a lot on, so I follow a lot of track runners now, and I've tried to follow a lot of track runners around the state, and every new interview that I do, I'm trying to follow everyone on the team from the school of the person that I'm interviewing. And so I'm seeing a lot of, not that I'm calling anyone out in particular, I also follow a lot of random athlete or track athletes from Wisconsin. But I see people like posting these perfect posed pictures of them with track spikes, you know, over their shoulder or something like that. And it's like, you know, sometimes that stuff is okay, like in between races, but sometimes to me it's like, did you really like take the time out of your day to do that? Is that more important than the race you're about to run? Because when you're posting these pictures and you're sharing the time, your time's not even that great. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Like for me, if I ever post a track picture, I just make sure it says original and raw as possible, because that's what track is. It's not all sunshine and rainbows all the time. It's dirty, it's gritty, and I think like Instagram, social media can really like put like a glare over that, and you know, I just try to like show how it is and not, you know, gloss over things.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that you're able to keep it real with people like that. You don't need to put on a front. You don't need to be fake with people. Like you seem to have a good head on your shoulders, so I'm not worried about that. So I think there's one more question, and Rachel Jaws, I don't know if that's a last name or if it's short for something, but the account is Rachel Jaws. Do you know her? It looks like she's got
Yeah.
It looked like it could be a Wausau West uniform. No way. Is it short for Jaworski then?
Yeah, that's meant that.
Oh my God, she's being a dork right now. Okay, well, she asked a good question though. She said, okay, favorite track and field memory so far.
Favorite track what?
Favorite track and field memory so far. And I think that'll be a good place to conclude.
I have a lot of memories on the track, obviously, because I've been running for so long. But the one that kind of comes to mind lately was this past summer over in Finland with Team USA. I met a lot of great people, you know, from different parts of the country, from different colleges. And I remember we stayed at this kind of like the sports complex with Great Britain. It was just us in Great Britain, so it was kind of nice. And there's this big like gymnasium. I remember like most of like the team was hanging out there one day, and one of the big throwers. I mean, this guy was big, like scary big, and he was sitting in a wooden chair, and it was on the basketball court, and someone called his name, and he started to like scoot backwards on the chair, and the two back legs just snapped, and he just like there was a big thud, and and it was like he just had to be there. It was so funny. Right. And I remember they just kind of hid the chair in the closet and walked out. but it was just hilarious. But yeah, there's like
Stuff
track
like
just
that
allows
is
for
so
like
good.
different. What's that? Sorry.
Oh no, I just said stuff like that is so good. It's like that. It's not even really like a track and field memory in terms of a race or an event, but like that's one of the reasons why track is so great is like that downtime between events or whatever when you're spending it with the team. It really does feel like family that way. And that the funny stuff like that, like I have so many ridiculous memories that are just like if I were to tell them, they'd almost seem silly. Like I can totally picture. I can totally picture that. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Is
I
he
think track
Andrew
really
Stone
allows like
big?
different. Oh, what's that?
'Cause
Sorry,
Andrew,
Andrew Stone.
is he Andrew Stone? So he's like the best thrower in the state of Wisconsin right now. He's from Fond du Lac, I believe. Is he Andrew Stone big? Because that dude is massive.
I mean, I've never seen Andrew Stone before, but
Oh, I guarantee you'll
yeah,
see him this year at
I'm
state.
sure.
If you look at shot put.
Yeah, this guy was pretty big.
Yeah. He's a okay. Oh, last question. So, is there anyone you want me to interview from the state of Wisconsin this year? You know the girls' side better than I do. I don't mean it in any sort of bias. It's really easy for me to pay attention to guys' track. So, I would love advice from you. Is there anyone that you're like, yeah, you got to go talk to this girl. She's killing it right now. Because I would love to be able to do that. Any recommendations?
Let me think. I guess one that comes to mind is a freshman from Stevens Point. She's in our conference. She's really killing in the 800 this year. She had a great meet yesterday at the conference indoor. I'm sure you've seen something like mile split. We were at the Ohio meet together, and she ran a really great time in the 800. She killed it at New Balance. So I definitely
What's her name?
she's an up and coming athlete, and I think she'd be a Roisin Willis.
Roshi Willis.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna write this down. Or yeah, feel free to send me like if you know her profile or something like that. Feel free to send me that after we wrap up because I would love to do more interviews, man. I love this part so much. Like we're focusing on interviews. Like we've kind of when PB Track started, it was like this wide array of different possibilities, and we're like narrowing it in. I think this part is so fun. So thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say to Wisconsin's, I would call it Track Nation, but it's a state. Anything else you want to say to Wisconsin runners out there going into the 2019 outdoor season?
Well, I hope my senior year is as big as I want it to be, and just keep supporting as you guys always have been. And I hope to see you at the state meet, and hopefully it goes down good.
I love that. Well, Brooke, thank you very much for the interview this evening. I appreciate it so much. Hopefully we can do this again, maybe towards the end of the season or something. But I wish you best of luck on your journey. Heal up, get healthy, and we'll see you out there competing.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, Brooke. Take care. And tell your dad he's an awesome guy. He went to an awesome school, so
Okay.
pretty obvious.
All right. Will do. Bye.
All right. Bye.